I play Pokemon for a living, which means it's kind of my job to find out weird things about the game and make observations. So this video was inspired by a recent video since Braviary kept on ruining my intro, like a dozen times. I'm trying to start up the video, Braviary comes crashing into me, gets a battle going, ruins the aesthetic, so I just have to go and start over again. I'm trying to talk about the new Wild Area news. Get yourself a Gigantamax Machamp, Gigantamax Gengar, regardless of its game version. That's some cool stuff, and I end up battling the Braviary anyways. This video isn't about you, Braviary, but this one is. Because it made me think, well, if I'm getting more encounters than I want in actually a pretty short amount of time, like a frustrating amount of Braviary encounters, maybe we should start using Pokemon aggression to our advantage for getting shiny Pokemon. And the respawning mechanics are kind of weird. So yeah, Braviary just respawned, got into a battle, I barely saw it, and that took no time at all. Now, there are some times where it does get a little weird, like Braviary will wander off, not aggress, but sometimes they immediately regress, and that got me thinking, like, this seems like a really good semi-AFK way of encountering Pokemon. I know that with shiny hunting, you want to be a lot more aggressive, you want to be a lot more proactive and get as many encounters as soon as possible, but I don't have to do anything. And I'm still able to get a couple encounters per minute. You scale that to like an hour, like you could just be playing another game. You could be doing something else, and it doesn't matter. I wonder if it's, I was about to say, maybe it's even possible to like, you just slightly tap up every once in a while and press A, and you can do it blind, and almost like AFK in that kind of way, and then you can just start racking up those encounters, which means we have a good chance of getting shiny Pokemon. Are we going to get the 3-for-3 instant encounter? Yeah! Me starting up another video made me realize this is actually a viable method, huh? So now we have a theory, but how do we make it work with shiny hunting, and then how do we further optimize it? Well, we need to go to the Pokemon website and get the official shiny hunting odds, and it's the encounter method, because these encounters work for all of the Pokemon, that even the special encounters you can find in the overworld, if you've somehow managed to battle 500 of those species, you're good to go. And also, encounter isn't quite accurate, because if I run away from this Braviary, it doesn't count as an encounter, or doesn't count as a battle, so it doesn't make the shininess any more likely. And that kind of stumbles into some of the other things, because general shiny hunting rules apply. If you're doing any kind of wild encounters, any kind of shiny hunting, you're going to need a shiny charm. I don't have mine yet, so I'm mostly just showing you guys the numbers and the methodology behind it, but if you want to optimize it, you need a shiny charm, and then you need to battle 500 of these Braviary. That's also where it can still be semi-AFK, because you just mash the A button. So we get into the battle. That means it does cut it down by a couple of seconds. Ideally, high PP move that still finds a KO. PP ups, PP maxes are very easy to get inside this game. And then now we have one. And that means there's also a chance that we can encounter like a strong yellow aura one, but I don't really think that matters because we're going for shiny. So that's another cool thing. I could just sit here and mash A. That I don't even have to be looking at the screen unless I accidentally KO a shiny Pokemon, which is possible depending on how much attention you're paying to this. But I mean, I can still actually progress the encounters without really doing much of anything. But at 500, that's when we get a 6 times likelihood of a shiny Pokemon appearing, so that gives us a 7 in 4,096 chance. Also with the shiny charm, that gives us a 9 in 4,096 chance, which means we have 1 in 455 chance of getting a shiny Pokemon if we have 500 encounters. And then this is what I was talking about. Sometimes Braviary just kind of wanders off, doesn't care to fight us. Eventually he'll realize and then want to battle, so weird stuff. But like I said, it's not as proactive as regular shiny hunting method, but it's definitely faster than you would expect to utilize Pokemon aggression. I just think it's a shame that this encounter method for getting shiny Pokemon makes Pokemon Sword and Shield objectively the worst modern Pokemon game for getting shiny Pokemon, but we can still make this work out because at least it's semi-AFK and you're potentially getting like 200 encounters an hour, so it's not that terrible for getting shiny Pokemon. And then there's a couple of ways you can go about it for just optimizing it or just doing whatever and ending up with some shinies. However, there's still a few more things we can take advantage of. So you might notice that it's misty terrain outside. I intentionally set the date to be fog because there's a 2% chance that you can actually get a Togekiss to spawn in the Dusty Bowl. I haven't gotten one yet. That'd be a nifty little thing that if like the very, very, very rare chance of getting a Togekiss turns out to be shiny as well. That'd be pretty cool, but there's a few other Pokemon we can find in the wild area that are also aggressive that we can utilize the same method with. So we have Rhyhorn, it's aggressive, people are using Rhyperior competitively, so that'd be a pretty cool way of getting a shiny one. It also means that if you are going for a competitive shiny, you might want to have a synchronized Pokemon first in your party. And reminder, if it's a fainted Pokemon, then the synchronize is still going to apply that nature. I have a guide about it if you want to check that out in the description down below. So we can one-shot this if we want to. We can run away. We can also see how the encountering works for it, because this is just like a random spawn of Pokemon. So we have Roly-Coly there, and then Rhyhorn seems to respawn just fine, but it has to make contact with you, so we have to wait for it to turn around. Also, Roly-Coly might run into us, which would be pretty interesting. I want to try this without moving, because I haven't like done super amounts of testing for all of the different methods, so there might be like some optimizations that can be made, but for the most part, it looks like they spawn facing a random-ish direction, so this is just kind of where I'm hanging out. Give it a couple seconds. You got Boldore, and is he aggressive? Because Roly-Coly doesn't seem to be aggressive at all. Boldore doesn't seem to be aggressive at all either. So I don't think this spot is going to work too well, because it does have a respawning mechanic behind it, but the Pokemon that can respawn seem to be random. And you might get an encounter. So it still keeps it kind of AFK, and then it's just a couple of button inputs to run away, mash the A button. I'm like trying to think, I'm like, is there another way you can farm Roly-Coly for the shiny? There are some good Pokemon here though. If you use Colossal, that's pretty good competitive Pokemon in doubles, since you do like a surf strategy and you max out its speed. Also, Rhyperior is getting a lot of play as well, but it looks like the spawning for Rhyhorn isn't common enough to make this a super reliable method, but it's just a nice little place to shiny hunt anyways, because if you're just bouncing between the two spawns, you can get a lot of Pokemon to spawn in a short amount of time without an insane amount of work. Now, I was thinking it'd be pretty awesome if you could force spawn Corviknight in this way, but this is a one-time special encounter, so even though it looks like Corviknight's flying, it's not the same kind of flying Pokemon. So if I run away from this, Corviknight just isn't going to respawn, because the special Pokemon only spawn once per day, and I don't think it's worth grinding for, to where it's like, oh, do the time skip, find a Corviknight. That's just a completely different kind of shiny hunting, and it's definitely not AFK. However, there's places where Corvisquire spawns. But it doesn't seem like Corvisquire is as aggressive, so the dreams of getting like a semi-AFK Corviknight doesn't really seem like that's going to be a thing. So the best place to make this method work is going to be the Lake of Outrage, because there's a lot of strong Pokemon that are happy to just run into you for a fight, and depending on the weather that you can set, you can get some really desirable Pokemon as well. Now, Galvantula isn't aggressive. There's just so many Pokemon in the thick of the grass to where you're just going to find a lot of different Pokemon. Now, I do know that Noivern is aggressive, so we have a lot of these boys running around, and they'll just attack us, and that makes the method work. So pretty easy way of getting a shiny Noivern or the shiny of a lot of different Pokemon. As we can see right here, the overworld encounter table is pretty good depending on the weather. I mean, 2% chance to get the Dracolock, that's pretty nice. Noivern has some pretty high chances as well. Golurk just spawns everywhere all the time. Haxorus, that works out. And yeah, a couple others. So we got this, and then depending on the weather, you can make it work. I just think that the most annoying part about it is going to be having to feint all of these Pokemon. But 500 Noivern encounters, that'd be pretty wild. Also, these mechanics apply to Pokemon that are in the water, but you can't do anything cool like force spawn Gyarados because they count as special overworld Pokemon, so you can only encounter them once per day, which means you just kind of have to go into the water with different Pokemon at different times and different weather, and then see which ones are aggressive or not. So Goldeen isn't aggressive, but Quillfish is. That works. And then with like how Mantine and Mantike work, they're just kind of crazy and weird and will fly into you at whatever times. So yeah, I think this is an interesting method to keep in mind, especially as we get into the Isle of Armor, that if there's like some really cool flying Pokemon, overworld Pokemon, aggressive Pokemon, and Game Freak really makes it even better than it already is, just something to kind of like pay attention to, like, oh hey, I can maybe get my 500 encounters while kind of AFK. Like, that's another method you could apply with this. Like, oh, if I want to get 500 Noivern encounters, I could do that without even, like, putting too much effort into it. And then when I really want that shiny Noivern, or if I really want multiple shiny Noivern, I can then just constantly run into it until I get the shinies that I'm looking for. But you also have to be aware of the area that you're in, because if too many Pokemon can spawn that aren't aggressive, you're going to go a while without the encounters, which is why the flying Pokemon kind of work best in a couple of areas, because some of them are always aggressive, and just depends if you care about that Pokemon or the shiny Pokemon or whatever, because even though Braviary isn't an incredibly desirable Pokemon, it's a very reliable way of getting a lot of encounters in a short amount of time. And then there's other Pokemon in other areas like the Sigilyph. Pretty much if you see a Pokemon that's aggressive and you want it, you can get a shiny Pokemon in this way. I think that's pretty cool. And then there's one thing I wanted to test about this that might make it easier for farming that encounter rate, and that's using a Leppa Berry with a Pokemon that has Harvest while in Sunlight in the wild area, because Harvest will always activate under Sunlight. But the question is, does it activate in a wild battle like this? So we're at 0 PP, Leppa Berry, and no wait, yeah. Oh, no, it doesn't work. I was like trying to think about it, like, oh, will it consume the Leppa Berry, then give us the Harvest to give it back, but it looks like it skipped it because there's no end of turn for Harvest, and we didn't get it back even though it was sunny. But we did get our PP back, so I guess if you've just been playing a lot and you have like a million Leppa Berries, I don't, you could use that to kind of speed it up, or at least just a high PP move. Like I said, high PP move, PP up, PP max means you won't have to be refreshing it as often. Maybe if you just have a lot of high-level Pokemon with a lot of different moves, you can also make it work. But getting that 500 encounters is brutal. So tell me what you guys think. Did you ever consider using aggressive Pokemon to get easier shinies? Because while they're not faster, they're definitely easier. It's a very casual pace. You can just kind of do whatever, and then you will end up with more Pokemon encounters and more shiny Pokemon as a result. That you don't even have to be focusing on the game. You could be doing homework, you could be playing another game, you could just not care, and even if you're only getting one extra Pokemon encounter a minute, it's an extra Pokemon encounter a minute. That will add up over hours and stuff like that, and then if you're being proactive, if you kind of find your own style to make it work, more shiny Pokemon. That's pretty cool. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.